Presented for your entertainment and moral instruction, a comparison of two well-known individuals. On this side, Conan O'Brien, talk show host, podcaster, writer, comedian, and travologist. On this side, Elon Musk, business person, conspiracy theorist, richest human being on Earth, and internet troll. These two men share numerous traits in common. They are both famous to the point of being instantly recognizable to many, if not most people. They are approximately the same age. O'Brien, 61 years, Musk, 53 years. Perhaps you feel an 8-year difference does not qualify as approximately the same age, but I submit to you it's close enough for the bit, so let it go. They are both of fishy white complexion. They are both regularly laughed at, and they are both having a bit of a moment. Conan for hosting the Oscars, Elon for fucking up the federal government while his rockets explode. However, despite these superficial similarities, Conan O'Brien and Elon Musk are in fact very different people. And it is precisely these differences upon which I shall now elaborate for your amusement and edification. After more than 30 years as a celebrity, Conan O'Brien is a beloved and uncontroversial figure. He is respected by his peers, his employees, a large, diverse, multi-generational audience, and also quite possibly his family. Elon Musk, despite his fame, political influence, and unmatched material wealth, is neither widely beloved nor uncontroversial. Though admired to a fanatical degree by some, he seems to be respected the most by those who know him the least. Having spent the better part of 2 decades cultivating a public persona as a versatile technological visionary, in recent years he has become better known as a mumbling, off-putting weirdo whose companies make products that are routinely mocked by the general public. So, why is Conan, for lack of a better term, good? And why is Elon, to put it a certain way, a pathetic caricature of a man? I think it comes down to the difference between how they present themselves to the public. Both men are associated with the concept of humor. Conan, because he has been a successful writer and performer of comedy for virtually his entire adult life. Elon, because he has proclaimed himself to be a champion of comedy, defending it against people who are woke, whatever that means to him. Conan's overall approach to comedy is mostly a mix of irony and absurdism, but his persona as a performer is anchored in self-deprecation. He makes himself the butt of the joke. He did this regularly with guests on his late-night shows, behaving with exaggerated awkwardness or intentionally unconvincing confidence. On his podcast, he routinely assumes the persona of an egotistical and tyrannical boss, belittling his co-hosts and making grandiose declarations about his own talent and fame. Whatever the specific situation, the intent is always the same. We are supposed to be laughing at Conan. We are supposed to notice that he is acting silly or strange or like a dick and laugh at him. Self-deprecating humor is a reliable approach to comedy because it puts the audience at ease, since the comedian is targeting themselves. And it's also versatile, because while the comedian is directly making fun of themselves, as they do so, they can also be indirectly making fun of other people or other things. But self-deprecating comedy can be tricky to pull off. It demands thought and consideration. A self-deprecating comic doesn't want to make fun of himself so viciously that it ceases to be funny and starts making the audience uncomfortable. It also demands confidence. In order to be a self-deprecating comedian, you must be willing to admit and make light of your faults, and in doing so, invite others to see and laugh at those faults. Despite the ridiculous persona he often assumes, it's obvious that Conan has a lot of confidence as a performer. Confidence is cool. Though in his more unguarded moments, Conan has talked publicly about his real insecurities and how they feed his constant need to entertain people. Talking so candidly about one's insecurity is, perhaps paradoxically, a sign of confidence. Because Conan is willing to admit how much he cares if people like him, it doesn't come across as desperate. It comes across as honesty and self-assurance. Elon Musk, on the other hand, stinks of flop sweat and desperation. He obviously cares very, very, very much whether or not people like him, and more specifically, whether or not people think he's cool. But he's not comfortable admitting it. He acts as though his needs for attention and approval aren't obvious. He doesn't want people to think of him that way. He wants people to think of him as cool. That, along with his awkwardness, his terrible timing, his cold, runny egg of a personality, his open embrace of fascism, his emotional neglect of his own children, his repugnant personal bigotry, including transphobia, which has estranged him from at least one of those children, his thin skin, his fragile ego, and I could go on listing his unappealing and disreputable qualities, but the point is, those characteristics, plus his dishonesty, his transparent pseudo-intellectualism, his incompetence, his insecurity, his paranoia, his incessant micromanaging, his fundamental dishonesty, his history of taking credit for other people's work, his history of making wrong predictions, his history of attempting to deny his family's history of profiting from apartheid, his hypocrisy, his inserting himself into the federal government as an unelected and unaccountable oligarch, his reckless and inept efforts to sabotage the federal government, which he neither understands, nor wants to understand, nor is capable of understanding, his insatiable hunger for wealth and power, his juvenile design sense, his weird adolescent obsession with the letter X, and the smug sneer that is ever present on his perpetually punchable face, guarantee that he will never be cool except in the hollow eyes of the sycophantic mutant losers who swarm him like flies on shit, an apt metaphor if ever there fucking was one. If someone makes fun of Conan, Conan joins in, builds on the joke, tries to make it funnier. If someone makes fun of Elon, his response is wounded and utterly humorless. That's not funny. Humor fails when it lies. I love that he wrote that in response to a Saturday Night Live sketch where Mike Myers plays Elon and just does the exact same thing Elon actually did. So where's the lie? Exactly. Also, the person Elon was replying to who posted the clip wrote, "I can't imagine the kind of person who finds this funny." Yes, you can. Elon Musk. He's the one who did that fucking chainsaw for bureaucracy bit. He obviously thought it was funny at the time. He just didn't like being mocked for it. The differences between Conan and Elon when it comes to comedy run deeper than their personal approaches. Conan is a writer. He is creative. Elon is a thief. Conan writes jokes and works with a staff of talented writers who write jokes for him, original material crafted for a specific purpose by funny and imaginative people. Whenever Elon tries to come up with his own bits, that's when we get chainsaw for bureaucracy. Mostly, he just steals shitty memes that were made by other people. Recently on Twitter, he's been mocking a group of Democratic politicians who have all released separate social media videos where they're reading from the same script, as if this is some kind of scandal. And at one point, Elon tweeted something like, "Can't someone be bothered to write separate speeches? This is just lazy. Motherfucker, can't you be bothered to write your own jokes? Or hire someone funny to do it for you?" Talk about lazy. That's Elon's sense of humor, though. Retweeting other people's memes, often without giving the originator credit, so that people will think Elon came up with it himself. When he says we need to legalize comedy, he's talking about that. And bullying and mean-spirited pranks and mockery and Nazi jokes. Not jokes about Nazis, jokes Nazis tell each other. Conan is collaborative. He understands the importance of allowing the people you're working with and performing with to shine. He's wise enough to know that he doesn't need to always be the one who gets the laugh. Because if someone else on his show does something funny, that will also reflect well on him. Elon jealously desires all credit for himself. He doesn't just share other people's memes as though they were his own, he steals credit for the work of other people at his companies. He presents himself as an inventor and technological visionary when, in truth, he's never invented anything. The genuine innovations achieved by his companies have been due to the work of others who were in turn building on the work of previous generations. Elon Musk didn't invent the concept of an electric car or a reusable rocket, and some of his supposedly innovative original ideas are counterproductive efforts to solve problems that have already been solved. Hey, instead of trying to reduce traffic congestion by building single-lane tunnels under cities, why not invest in proven forms of public transportation? Because then Elon couldn't take credit for it. That's why not. And that's what he really cares about. Not actually solving the problem, not the work, the credit. Conan's egomania is an act. It's a bit that we're supposed to laugh at, a joke that we're all in on with him. In reality, whenever Conan has discussed the success he's enjoyed in his career, he's come across as humble and grateful. He highlights the other people he's worked with who have elevated him, and he emphasizes the role that luck has played in his success. Hard work and talent are important, but so is being in the right place at the right time and meeting the right people. Elon acts as though he is entitled to his accomplishments, and as though his accomplishments entitle him to do whatever he wants. His self-regard stretches beyond egomania into megalomania. He speaks of himself as someone who wants to save the world, someone who wants to get humanity to Mars, as though these were jobs for him and him alone. He also takes a eugenicist's view of humanity, using Twitter, which he owns, to amplify the voices of white supremacists, and using his unofficial position in the Trump administration to push for cuts to Medicaid and other federal programs that benefit the poor, and to dismantle USAID, the federal agency that administers aid to people in the developing world. And, lest we forget, he doesn't just enjoy Nazi jokes. He's fond of their salutes as well. I realize this comparison between these two people may seem arbitrary to many of you, and frankly, the concept did randomly occur to me while taking a walk the other day, so you might be onto something there. After all, despite their previously referenced handful of similarities, these two could hardly be more different, but that, my friends, is the point. One thing these two men do share in common is that they have both achieved success, but they have achieved very different kinds of success. What makes the Conan kind of success more attractive than the Elon kind? Perhaps it depends on what you're measuring with. I'm using this yardstick from a flooring store in my hometown that no longer exists. It belonged to my grandfather. I found it in the living room closet. Conan is self-deprecating, confident despite his insecurities. Elon projects his insecurity and desperate need for attention and approval onto everyone around him. Conan is creative and collaborative. Elon is a thief and a liar who wants to be thought of as funny and insightful and innovative without actually being any of those things, or even seeming to grasp what those concepts actually mean. Conan is humble and thoughtful about his own success. Elon is an entitled egomaniac who takes his success as proof of his own superiority. But perhaps the most important difference of all is this: Conan is happy. Does Elon seem happy? For all of his wealth, his celebrity, his social media influence, his political influence, being given free rein to rampage through the federal government, for everything he has, does Elon ever seem happy? For the good of those around you, for the good of your community, for the good of the world, but first and foremost for your own good and your own conscience and your own happiness. Be a Conan, not an Elon.